Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Joe's back. I'm back. We've got a guest lined up as well for later on. But I think we need to talk about a couple of things first. Well, probably I'm going to count them. Three things have materialised after Dean Barlow's video, Dean's chat on the last episode.
Great guest, by the way.
A fantastic guest. I've got
you
to
got
say,
your brown nosing in, didn't you? For that, tick in the box.
He's a beautiful man, full of charisma. He's my England gaffer. I've got to praise him as much as I can. First thing for me and Joe: subscribe. It helps us out massively.
And comment.
Notified when any of these videos, new videos get put up, so you don't miss anything. We've got some really good guests lined up as well. So big wise to subscribe. Also, comment below. Let us know your feelings. And if you do want to be that guy who puts a thumbs down, I can't believe anyone would ever want to do that. But if you do want to put a thumbs down, explain yourself. Tell us why. You know, we want a bit of interaction from you guys.
Yeah, it can't all be positive, Rob.
It can't all be positive, can it? We've always got to have a bit of disagreement somewhere. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put the headphones in because I think the sound will be better. What do you think?
Yeah, where's your headphones gone?
I know.
I'll tell you what I have noticed. Bit puffy cheeks. I reckon the beer's starting to take hold a bit, Rob.
Oh, me?
No, me.
Hang on, is that better?
Better? Yeah, my cheeks have definitely got puffier over the last few weeks.
I think you're looking well.
I'm looking well, but obviously can't have 3 or 4 cans a day.
No, I've got some colour on me, look. No?
I burnt my shoulders yesterday.
Have you? Yeah, it was a lovely day yesterday.
I was in the pool all day yesterday.
Wow.
And when I say pool, it's about that deep.
Yeah, it's not, you don't live in a mansion within the pool. Be nice, wouldn't it? Have a nice outdoor pool at the minute. So let's talk about current topics from Dean's little chat. First thing, Kim Milsom.
Oh my God.
That obviously you don't hear much about at all, but we both used to love. I never met Kim. I never met him.
Never seen him.
Before my time, really. But I used to read every single article that I could find, and I've got his book actually. And there was just a bit of mystique, wasn't there?
Well, Lee Kerry actually lent me his book. What was it called now?
Match fishing. I think it was just match fishing.
Match fishing, wasn't it? I read it from cover to cover. And I tell you what, springs for me. You know, they say don't meet your heroes. It's probably one of them. Not that he was a hero or anything, but because I'd never met him, he's still got that mystique. Like
it just seemed a bit different to everyone else.
Yeah. I loved how he fished. I loved his setup. He had the England box. I wanted that box so much when I was a kid.
I know.
And he sat on his pole all the time. Oh my!
And the venues that he used to go to.
Carbo, Drennan Carbo. Do you remember?
Drennan Carbos, Drennan Squats, all that sort of thing. And I suppose he fishes a little bit.
And he was a Van den Eyne man. I was a Van den Eyne man at the time. I love Van den Eyne. Oh,
well, you saw that little picture. You've seen that picture of me, haven't you, with my Van den Eyne bait apron on? That was me. You know, because obviously it was Van den Eyne at the time.
He was the first person. As soon as I get Match Angling Plus or whatever Angling Plus at the time, he was the first thing I flicked to every single time.
Yeah,
brilliant.
No, I used to love reading it. I liked his writing styles, and to be fair, when I used to do my diary piece for match fishing, it was called Banknotes, whether that was a thing that we come up with together or not, but I just know that it was called Banknotes, which obviously Kim's was.
We called it something else, but
yeah,
you don't need to.
In-house, it rhymed with Banknotes, but obviously for public, it was Banknotes. And also, I tried to write in a similar style, but Kim's style was so good the way he wrote it. I think Kev Wilmot used to ghostwrite some of it as well, and that column. So maybe there's a bit of his style in there as well. I'm sure it was handwritten as well. Kim used to handwrite.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me because obviously it was late 90s, mid to late 90s and early 2000s, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I'm just gonna send a message to
the guest.
To the guest, yeah.
But yeah, what an angle. I always used to remember it was like simple tactics and didn't have an elaborate setup or anything. And he used to catch loads of fish, didn't he?
Yeah, and he used to put loads of time in practicing. And he used to put loads of time in behind.
Team guy, wasn't he? Through and through team guy.
So baits, he was team guy. And you'd see, obviously he fished for England, but you'd see his results. He wasn't the guy that was standing on top of the podium. He was just that guy who's, I don't want to say make up the numbers because you're not making up the numbers, but that guy who had that steady result.
The essential team guy.
Yeah. I think there was quite a few eruptions in the England team, wasn't there, with him? Maybe
But
because he just
I've heard lots of this, and I'd just prefer to keep it my image in my head that I read about, rather than worry about all that.
Yeah, of course.
Because I've let that cloud my judgment before.
Yeah, you don't know, do you? You don't know what goes.
I always like to, until I meet people myself, I like to make my own judgment. So I'll just keep him as his genius angler in my head.
That's how I'm trying to see him. Yeah. Right. Next thing that Dean mentioned, has arisen from what we were talking about with Dean, was the golf. Not necessarily the golf, but the difference between sort of national fishing.
Yeah.
Just fishing at home on home waters, fishing open matches, or even bigger team events, and international style events, as in world champs or world club champs and things like that. And you've sampled a bit, haven't you, with the world club champs? Probably,
obviously, in a different way to you. I've seen it from two sides. When I was obviously a Match Fishing magazine, before that, actually, me and Lee went to Merida for the World Champs of England, the float one, and they won it that year. And then I went to Poland to cover it and they won it that year.
What was Merida? What was that? It's carp, was it?
Big river, yeah. They was catching bleak, and they was catching carp and not F1s, Carassios on long pole. Brilliant venue. It was a really good fishing match. The lads did well. They won gold. Poland was if you'd have taken a stain from Keeby Canal and put it somewhere else, it just suited them down to the ground, and they won gold again. So I've been twice, and they won gold both times.
Right.
But the effort is incredible. On the flip side of that, when Garbley and Ossip, my old team, won the Division 1 National, when we won it on the New Junction Canal, the best experience in my career. We went to France for the World Club Championships. And bearing in mind, as the winner of the National, that's the pinnacle of team fishing in the UK. We went across and couldn't have been more out of our depth. Hey up.
This is a guy that will know about it.
Now
then, we're just talking about the difference between domestic fishing,
right?
And that was a nice. Hang on. That was a really low key entry. Now then,
that's my entrance. That's all I'm going to get.
Let's introduce it. Lee Kerry.
Oh, thanks, Rob.
Lee Kerry,
King Master King,
Feeder King,
Feeder Master,
Feeder Master.
No, I'm enjoying this, Rob. Keep going. What else you got?
Biggest ears in angling.
And I tell you what, that is behind him, an exceptional lamp.
Yeah, beautiful
you've
lamp.
seen this lamp quite a bit now, Joe, haven't you?
Yeah, I've seen it.
It's a beautiful lamp.
You enjoy this?
Yeah, we're talking about the difference between domestic fishing and the jump to international style fishing. Joe's just talking about his time with Ossip, how they won the National.
Yeah.
The pinnacle of team fishing, and then we went to France and couldn't have been more out of our depth if we'd have tried. There's a picture, actually, I've got somewhere. I'll try and find it, of when we got our delivery from Census while we were there on the first day. And there's a picture of me, my dad, Mick Lodge, Geldart, just stood looking at all these different ground baits like, what we're going to do? What are we doing with this?
Brilliant.
And
I think there's so many different things. I think it's quite easy to get used to if you've done it a few times. It's just the very initial one, when you go on the very initial trip, the first trip, that makes it difficult, doesn't it? So it is a big step.
I think there's a lot of people, and I was one of these people, I think there's a lot of people who look at international style fishing. I'm not just talking feeder, I'm talking float as well, I'm talking all of it. I'm talking every aspect, really. And they think, I can do that. And then I think once they actually got to that stage, whether it's the preparation, whether it's just the mindset, whether it's even nerves on a massive stage, I just don't know whether they're up for it. I just don't know whether they see it. I think they see it if it's a bit easy. It actually is.
I'll tell you one of the things that affected me the most, in the early days. I think because the venues that you go on are quite uniform, right? The way they are, they're all quite the same, they're all quite uniform. I think that sometimes you switch your fishing brain off a little bit. So instead of you think, I've got a plan, and you just fish to your plan rather than actually fishing. Whereas when we fish in the UK, most of our venues are quite unique. So, you tend to only have a vague idea what you might do. and then your peg is deeper, shallower, fish are feeding in a different way. But when you go abroad, you think, oh, I've got to fish 13 metres with my pole and I've got to ball this ground bait in. And when it doesn't work, you try really hard to make it work for the time, and then all you know, your time's gone. So I think just having a little bit more fishing ability is helpful, and different people react in different way to that, I think, which is what makes some people very successful at it.
Well, who was the best, Lee? Because obviously you've had float experience. Is Will's obviously, is he the best? Is he the best at dealing with that, or are they just all really good, but a couple attack it a little bit more?
I don't. It's really hard to, I think, say who's the best.
No, because I'm not saying the best.
I wouldn't say. I understand what you're saying,
because they've all got different. They're all in that, all in the float team or around the float team for a reason. We've just been talking about Kim Milsom. Not necessarily sitting on top of the podium every time, but was in the team for a reason, that he was a pretty steady guy, or for whatever reason he was in that team, but he was a pretty steady guy, come back with good points. Yeah,
well, I think Kim was in the team for like 7 world champs, I think, something like that, wasn't he? And it's having that blend of being in the team and contributing to the team. Like Essex were unbelievably successful with him as a manager, arguably the best team at that time. So, but did he fit into the England role as a bit part player?
Yeah.
Maybe if he was the manager, that's a different thing. Like fishing manager, that's a different thing. But I think it's a really interesting.
And of course, you don't have to be world champion individually to be a brilliant team man. Like Steve Gardner never won it, and he's arguably one of England's greatest anglers.
I agree. Yeah, I agree
level.
with that. Yeah, no, I agree with that. He was very fundamental to tactics, and he was, in his ability to consistently score brilliant points was ridiculous. So
hard man to replace.
It's hard to say. That probably the best isn't the right way of putting it, but
I think
ultimate international angler, I'd sort of.
Yeah, I think to answer your question, Will, as an international angler, is as perfect as they come in my eyes.
He's all in, isn't he, with it?
Yeah, he's. It's hard. I'd argue that because obviously Alan is amazing on internationals. I always think he's got this like focus that is just unreal. Like it's just ridiculous. And I think he's been amazing, and he still is amazing. But I think he's domestically done amazing as well, like in a lot of different things. And I think he's different to Will, but they're also very similar. But I think like Steve Hemingway is fantastic, and Sean has done brilliantly. If you've been in the team, Des, if you've been in the team for 20 years, you're clearly a brilliant angler. So, there's not a lot between them all, is there really? And that's I think that probably goes for a lot of guys that have consistency at that level. Because you could argue that Matt Godfrey, even though he's done 1 or 2, he's currently the best because he came 4th in the world.
Yeah.
What does it mean if you come 4th in the world, Rob? I don't know, but
Did he tell you about that time he caught a catfish, Lee?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I've heard that story.
Someone was watching me at the time, Joe.
I got to jump in the picture. Do you know what I mean? Like, come on, mate, I'll make you famous. Come and be in the picture.
We'll try and get it in every episode going forward.
Yeah, 4 off. Episode 11, catfish. Yeah. How many line did it strip, Joe? I remember 50.8 metres.
I remember it like yesterday.
And it's a good job he had that big landing net up.
Oh.
Well, he didn't have that big landing net up, but that,
what a story, though. What a story.
That's brilliant. Well done.
So go back to Lee Kerry to make it all about Lee. So
that's more like it. I ain't on here to talk about you.
You were in the float.
Yeah.
You still do a bit of float fishing, obviously with Barnsley and some other events.
Yeah, World Clubs. Yeah.
why was there a big jump to feeder, and how difficult was the switch, and what were the differences? So talk us through the float side of it. You were going on World Champs. I don't want to say as a bit part.
No.
I want to say is you were going as in to learn the ropes, going on Euros, that sort of thing, being trying to get into the squad.
Yeah.
And then what happened from there?
How long you got?
We've got ages.
Yeah.
How long do you need?
Well, basically, after fishing in the youth team and like enjoying that international style of fishing, for me, international fishing was always the pinnacle. I think if a lot of people are honest with themselves, I think a lot of people try to do that. They realise they're not going to do it, and they turn their back on it. And it was never my most important thing anyway. And that proved to me when the feeder team came up, because all of a sudden, all these people who never went international fishing had a hunger for international fishing. Because I think that to represent your country is the pinnacle. That's in sport. That's my personal belief. Be that your club, be that in the national team, whatever it is. So that was my goal, and I was enjoying the float team. I loved going on the trips. We obviously I went to 3 Euros and a couple of home internationals, and I really, enjoyed them. I didn't quite get the best results I could have got. I mean, I did all right. In the first Euros, I came second in my section on the first day, but that doesn't really tell the whole story. I was terribly poor in the first hour fishing for bleak. I never picked a bleak whip up all week, and at the last minute we decided there was going to be some bleak fishing, and I was just getting into it as the end of the first hour was coming, but you don't get that opportunity at international fishing, and I wasn't good enough at it.
How long were the matches then, Lee? Were they 3 hours or 4 then?
4 hours. It was 4 hours. But, you're talking about the top number in my section was 200, and everybody had 150 plus, and I had like 80. So you're miles behind. And I just wasn't ready for it in the right way. And when I couldn't catch them, I just thought, oh my God, this is almost like you're having a dream. You finally got your chance, and it wasn't going very well. And we changed to the long pole. And again, we hadn't done that all week. I know it's going to sound daft, but the water was dropping by 0.5 metre a day. And every day we were doing something different. Slider, short pole, long pole, shallow. It was ridiculous. And I got into the long pole fishing really quickly and did brilliantly well and came second in my section by like grams. But that doesn't, like I say, there was signs of weakness there, which I had to go away and improve on. And I think that I'm not a Will Raisin in terms of like, Will Raisin's been brilliant from like day one. From like the first day he steps into anything, he's got an unbelievable natural talent. Rob's got a natural talent as well, and I haven't. So like I should have had that ready, and I didn't. So I had to go away and work on that. So I am getting there with this story, by the way.
Is this you justifying that second in your section?
Yeah, second. And then the next day I was 7th. And so I did really well, but I needed a little bit more time to settle into it, if I'm being honest, and I needed more opportunity. And all the time I was going with Barnsley to the World Club Champs, which I've now done 5. And the lowest I've been in 4th in my section. So I know I can do it at that level. And I've caught an unbelievable amount of fish. But when I'm going with Barnsley, from the first day I've gone, Glenn has put me in the team. It's a different type of week. Yeah. So if I'm not very good at bleak fishing, when we went to Slovakia, I had 2 full sessions bleak fishing, so I could be good at it. And I'd already done a lot between those 2 sessions, and all of a sudden I was really good at it. And I thought, this is what you need to do in the float fishing. So it just didn't really quite work out. And that's okay. And then obviously Tommy approached me and said, look, I think you're on the fringes with the float. It's up to you whether you want to stick with it. But I see a lot of qualities in you that I want in my team, and I'd like to bring you into the World Champs team, provided you commit yourself to some more feeder fishing. So basically, for like a year, even though I'd done a lot of feeder fishing, I committed to doing more feeder fishing. And Tommy said, you know, obviously your results been really good. I want to bring you in and see how you get on. So that was how the switch happened. But I think that the feeder fishing, yep.
Yay! Sorry.
Is she just pleased I've joined the feeder team?
Well, I'm going to tell you what. No, what she's just done is her first ever poo-poo on the potty.
Brilliant. Get in. Sounds like my England career.
Perfect timing.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. So that was how that changed. And obviously, Rob, as you know, when you start feeder fishing, you think, oh, like, you know, I'm just going to go feeder fishing and it's going to be the same. And do you know what? The whole aspect of it is exactly the same, but you're just practicing different skills within angling. So like I used to go out slider fishing once a month, every month, without fail. I'd have a guaranteed slider session every month. So when I needed to pick it up in the float team, I'd pick the slider rod up and chuck it out like it was second nature. Whereas if you ask anyone else to do that in the UK who doesn't go international fishing, they won't be able to do it. And the feed is exactly the same. How many sessions did we have casting 100 meters plus before we went to South Africa? You know, we went all the time because we couldn't consistently cast 100 meters plus and fish. And nobody really can because we don't do it. So we made it our mission to make sure we had that ability. So whether it's chucking a slider or chucking a feeder, I think it's that commitment to singleize yourself, to hone a skill in a certain area that makes you elite at that. And you can apply that to commercial fishing, river fishing, natural water fishing, feeder fishing, float fishing, etc. And so from the whole perspective, for me, it's not actually that different. It's very, very similar, but you've just got a change of personnel. But the change of personnel is, you know, that's people are people. You've got to deal with people in a different way, haven't you?
You know, as a float angler, did you feel, looking at the feeder guys, that that'd be easy to do? I can jump to that because feeder is not as skillful as float, or because I've been around it, and let's be real, a lot of guys who are good at fishing poles and float, they think feeder fishing is the easier option, as in skill set wise. Did you think that at the time? And did you go into it going, well, if I just spent a couple of months chucking a feeder, I'll be a shoo-in, surely? Is that how you felt? Deep, I'm asking you deep down.
Yeah. No, I didn't. From day one of the feeder, Tommy spoke to me about what have you got any intentions? And I said no. And the reason was because 2010, 11, whenever it was, I was solely focused on fishing for the float team. I'd spent 10 years chasing that goal up until that point, and I wasn't prepared to step back from that to make the feeder change. And I looked at what you guys were doing and really respected it. And I'll tell you what impressed me the most was when you get consistency of results in any sport, there must be an element of skill, right? And the England feeder team are and have been the best, right? So they are ranked number 1, 2 years on the bounce with the wins, a second with a ridiculously brilliant score. Clearly, that is not luck. So not any part of me thought it would be easy. However, what I did think would be easier was coming across and using some of my existing feeder skills. But that was absolute crap because you don't realise how many different things have been developed because of the specific focus on what you're doing. So I didn't understand why I needed a link. I didn't understand why a cage feeder was better than a solid feeder, when to use a rocket, when to put a window on, what sort of hook to put on. And I had to have like a crash course in those sorts of things to try just to catch up. And I said this to Joe. I said these exact words about 2 years ago, right? I said, I reckon I've caught up to 90% of what those guys are doing. That final 10% is going to take me ages to get, because that final 10% is what separates everybody at every level, at the highest level. So you're trying to get each one of those percentage at a time. You can't do those overnight. You can catch up the bulk of it. I strongly believe that I could pick the feeder team up and put it in the float team, and pick the float team up and put it in the feeder team, and they would both be 90% of the ability, like practically overnight. But until those same people focused on the specific type of fishing, they would not improve. And that's to get to the same level. So we would always be 10% behind, and having that specific focus to get there is what it takes. So when we went to Croatia and this is a brilliant example, we went to Croatia this year for the World Cup Champs fishing big flat floats. And when we first went as Barnsley, it was in Slovakia. Now, I'd been the year before to Croatia with the men and watched and learned some stuff. So when we went to Slovakia, we were like kind of getting there, but it took us all week to get to like that 90-95%, and we were lucky enough to get a medal because it all came together right at the last minute. Fast forward 4 years to Croatia, and we've all that 5% has continued to develop, and all of a sudden we were the best team on the bank, because we'd taken all those skills over the last 4 years and kept adding to them all the time. And when we started, we were at 95. So by the time we came to the weekend, we were as close as you were going to get to being at sort of full ability. And
that Barnsley team now has got so much experience at that level. It's a bona fide international team now, isn't it? Essentially,
full international team. Yeah. Absolutely, that's exactly right. There's so much experience there. We were talking about this the other day. There really is, and all members of that team, apart from probably Frankie, have fished 10 international float matches. Yeah. 10 years worth.
Which is huge, isn't it?
Yeah, it's huge.
Absolutely. And it's huge because the other teams are that way. I remember when we went with Osset, like the Italian team was Ravanelli, and they were like international anglers, and we were like, and the French team were the same, and all the other teams had this. It was so different.
And what you guys were doing, what you guys desperately needed at that time was a Tommy Pickering or an Alan Scott to go with you, and he could have. You started the week at 50%, and by the time you got to 90, well, you're never going to get a medal. Whereas if you can start at a higher level, you can move. And that's what happened with the feeder fishing. I went to Inniscarra thinking, it's a bite of chuck, I'll slay these. And it was a nightmare. It was like my worst nightmare. Like every time I'm fishing, I'm thinking, what is going on here?
You probably needed that though.
Oh, no, that was a rude awakening that week, because it was like, I'll tell you exactly what it was.
Well, you take that one of two ways, don't you? You either go, this ain't for me, I can't do it. Yeah. Or you go, I need to get better at this and kick on.
100%. Well, the thing is, up until that point, I'd been catching loads of fish on a feeder, but I'd never been small fish fishing on a feeder with any consistency. And I sort of came over there and thought, this will be all right, this. And it was rubbish. And what happened it was just like the bleak fishing in the European Championships. The difference being that Tommy Pickering has put his arm around me and said, that was shit. You need to get better at it. Yeah. And I was like, right, that's interesting. And he wasn't as brutal as that, but he was like, don't make any excuses. Not that I was, but he was saying to me, don't make any excuses. If you know this is something that you need to work on, then go and do it. Learn from those elements. And of course, then I spent the next God knows how long fishing for small fish, and now it's like my favourite thing to do. Because if you're a good angler who spends a lot of time working on something, you get better at it anyway. And now I really fancy it. Do you know what I mean? In any environment, I bring it on because I've learned all the little nuances that you need to make it better.
Yeah, I saw the difference. The first World Pairs we went on, I saw a total difference. Even just talking to you on the way over there, because you'd fished a few of the Irish festivals before, but not the pairs.
Yeah.
And even talking to you on the way over there, because I'm quite relaxed and just let everyone get on with their own thing anyway. I was happy for you to just go off and do your own thing anyway. But even some of the things I thought, oh, right, he's doing this in a different way to how I would do it. And I think that was just totally different to the year after, when obviously we won it. Didn't do bad in the first year, but obviously when we won it, you were totally different on a feeder to the year before, I think.
No, absolutely. You couldn't be more right, Rob. It was, the festivals that I've been on in Ireland were pole dominated and float dominated, and pick the pole up, put the pole in my hand, and I'm ready. Bring it on. It didn't matter who it, but when we went to the World Pairs, it was obvious that you've got to be able to fish a feeder to an unbelievable level to do well, because when you get your chance, it could happen. And we sat down in the practice and we fished off the length, and I realized that, it was like, actually I'm doing some things wrong here. And throughout the week, I was identifying what was going wrong, as you were, but you could do it quicker than me every day, because obviously, certainly as the week went on, because the way you fish the feeder. So then come the following year, and we're both like, well, we've not got a plan at all. There is no plan here, but we're going to fish with a feeder for whatever fish that comes our way, using the skills that we've obtained to catch fish on a feeder. And obviously we had a fantastic time and won it.
I've seen this all the way through though with you, Lee, because same with Whiteacres, maybe a slow start in your Whiteacres career, then you end up smashing it. You go to England, feed, float, everything you do, maybe a bit of a slow start, and then you end up being the man at it. And it just seems like that, whatever you seem to turn your mind to. Yeah,
I think that's a good summary, Joe. And as I've got older, that time's become less.
Don't roll your eyes, Rob. Everyone can see you.
Right? That time has become less. So you take less time to improve because you've got more experience with what you're doing. And that's really noticeable for me in my fishing, and you are 100% right. It just, you don't always hit the ground running. We're not all Rob Wootton.
Hey, he weren't rolling his eyes when Dean was on the other day. He was like, hey.
Yeah, I was.
I've seen his post. It made me
sickening.
You've got to be nice to the gaffer, haven't you?
Thanks, Dean. Thanks for coming on.
Well, hang on. Do we need to talk about your dad going in a Scara with you?
No.
Right, so we won't talk about your dad beating you, sitting on a carp chair all week.
Yeah.
Do we need to talk about how good your brother is at everything and how he got all the skills?
You can do if you want.
Yeah. Just quickly tell everyone what your brother does in comparison to you. You go fishing and catch a few smelly fish. What does your brother do?
Well, I look at it like this. I'm living the dream, and he flies a helicopter for a living.
Right.
You know what I mean? He has to go to war zones and stuff like that.
So he is the original Johnny Bravo.
I get to go.
Good-looking guy.
Yeah, he's a Chinook pilot for the RAF with medals of honour and professional drummer. He's one of them when you go out in a club and they say, "What do you do?" and he says, "Oh, I'm a helicopter pilot," and they go, "Yeah, good one."
And he just walks out with about 10 women around.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's just got arms full of women.
Yeah. That's pretty much it, really.
Did he get the looks as well, or?
Well,
someone must have got him.
Obviously. Are we really talking about this now, Kerry?
No.
What?
Nothing wrong with my hair. Bottom half of my face is pretty good, I'll have you know.
Lockdown, that was.
That isn't. This is brilliant.
I see Steve's done it. I got a glimpse of it.
I got Steve to do it. I texted him and said he's got to do it.
It's not worked out for Steve either, though, has it, really?
Listen, Lee,
no.
You're the one wearing a cap. If we take your cap off and lift your hair up a little bit.
I've got my cap on, Rob. Look, I've got hair here.
Yeah, yeah.
I've got some hair here. What more do you need?
That's all we need. Yeah, that's all we need.
At least you changed your hoodie today, Lee. That's a new.
Yeah, well, I've had a change of hoodie, Joe. Yeah, I've saved this one especially for when I got invited onto the
Still corporate, isn't it?
The #1 fishing podcast.
Well, we're the one that everybody's talking about. So hopefully Jake will give me a call soon.
Yeah. Festival-wise, well, pairs, I want you to touch on the importance, because this is what Tommy hit home with me, the importance of just going on international events as well. So just getting into the rhythm of fishing international events and almost not really, obviously it's good to go fishing domestically.
Yep.
Because obviously it keeps you in tune, keeps you going fishing, get your results, keeps your confidence going. But really the experience comes from international events. So going on as many as you can, that's how I mean, I like the trips. I like to get away and go on the trips. And I think if you have got any aspirations of doing anything internationally, you've got to understand you will be going away and you have got to actually put some time and effort into that.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that always hits home for me, right? And when I used to go to Whiteacres all the time, I was the absolute king of a first day section win, right? If anyone's going to win the section first day, I was down for it. About 8 years running, something daft like that, right? And it used to go like this: win, maybe win second, third, fourth, need a result, petered out to nothing. And that is because of the way my brain was working at the time, which is what I figured out when I was on the festivals and why my luck changed. So effectively, same thing happens on your trips. Have you ever been as tired as when you get home from a trip abroad?
4 or 5 days in, you're absolutely knackered.
You're
absolutely knackered.
Dead, right? Your brain has gone into survival mode. And this is another thing about the England thing as well, right? Your brain's gone into survival mode. You're not making the same clear thoughts. You're not making the same clear decisions. It doesn't work like that. You are physically and mentally drained. So by going away, you are training yourself and your brain to work at that increased level throughout the time that you're fishing, right? And you're a really good example, Rob, because you were the king of a slow start, but an unbelievable finish, right? And I think that made
not one on the gallops, Rob, is it?
Nothing's one on the gallops, right? But that, and
you've
then
got to get on the racetrack, Joe.
Your nature really suits that, and my nature was different. It was really intense to begin with, and that blend actually works really well because that helps us get a better start. It helps you maintain a better start, and then but not basically blow your load. So I think going away and getting used to that style of living away, keeping preparation levels high, keeping a clear mind and thinking clearly. See, like the first thing was rush down to Whiteacres, quick, fish all day, get some extra fishing in the evening. Oh my God, fishing, yes, brilliant. Have some beers, 1 o'clock, pass out, get up. And by the time Thursday came, I remember Joe drawing a flyer at Gwinear and falling asleep on his box in between bites because he was that exhausted. And I wouldn't
do that.
That
was standard Gwinear.
That was standard Gwinear. But that is what you learn by going away. You learn how to read what's going on the venue, read how places are reacting. We've been on 3 world pairs now, and every single one's been different. And every single one is a journey throughout the week, understanding how the fish are reacting at a given time. And that can mean Monday is bright sunshine, the end of the week is rain, or vice versa, or a blur in the middle where the wind changes. It's always different. And I think by fishing continuous lengths of time, you learn how to manage your time to peak at the right time. And that is one of the massive keys to success in international or going away. And particularly for me, it's pretty much all I do. I concentrate on festivals and bigger events, and then qualifiers in things that I want to do. And that's my style of fishing. And then I use domestic smaller matches to practice or, do things that I've got to do. in between basically team fishing at a high level, and going on these other trips. And it's massive. If you've got any ambitions whatsoever to do anything internationally, you need to be seriously considering going on international trips where you can. You know, I've been doing it since I was 18 years old, and I've been on 50 at least. So it's completely, and it took me a long time to get it sorted. Like I said, I'm not one to hit the ground running. It took me 10, 15 trips to even get close to being that sort of.
I think a lot of people lose faith with it. I've spoken to a few people, maybe they're in the England juniors or been in the youth setup, and they've got through, and then they're out of that setup, and they almost feel it's a long road, and will even ever get into that team because it seems like a closed shop. And I'm not too sure it is, but it just seems to put people off. And I think that's when they start saying, well, I'll go and do some individual stuff.
It's the same though, with like your Jamie Hughes and your Andy Powers and that. People see the end bit, but they don't see the hours of boring driving and crap matches that they have to fish to get to that final. Like Andy Power, the miles he does to get in them finals. I know it looks great. He's in 4 or 5 finals a year. Can you imagine what his mileage is like on the van after the end of his year?
It's unbelievable. And Andy Power is a brilliant example because I don't think Andy Power is a particularly lucky angler.
Hard work.
You know, he certainly doesn't seem to get a break early on in qualifiers or draw those qualifying pegs.
Pure effort.
Which you have to do to qualify. And all right, you might see, Andy Power, brilliant, 2 or 3 matches a month, but he'll have had 5 or 6 absolute no-hopers by doing that thing and chasing that goal. And we all have that. Everybody has that. And it's about trying to apply yourself to get the right result at the right time. And that's what makes those guys good at what they do.
There can't be many sports where you've got to endure as many downs as many ups as fishing.
Yeah, because you can't win all the time.
You can't, because obviously everyone has a bad day. Everyone goes home,
Passing
the steering wheel, thinking I put so much effort into that match, preparing for it, practicing, and then it's just all fell apart. The amount of times I've been driving back from, especially festivals, because it's a long old slog, especially halfway through the festival, you're doing no good. You think I've got to fish the last 2 days,
and then you flat.
And driving home, you just think, this is me done. I'm going to pack this game up. What am I thinking? Dedicating so much of my life, and then it's down to maybe a peg draw or a chap on the end peg getting a last minute 10-pounder, and it's just things like that. And you just think, I think you've got to be so mentally strong to do any sort of top flight angling and be able to cope with those hits. I think it's so hard.
Absolutely. You know, you can't. I think. And this applies to everyone, you know, like I've spent a lot of time with some of the greatest anglers that there'll ever be, and they question themselves when things aren't going right. They think that people are looking at them every day, every minute of every day. And the truth is that they're not. People aren't.
People see the glory. They don't see all the other stuff.
They don't see the other stuff. All right, you might get, you know, Clive, who went and smashed me up next peg and tells his mates about it. But apart from that, I'm not, you know, there's going to be so many goods that you're going to get those periods, be it a period of time or a day in time or a festival, bad luck, good luck. You're going to get those, you know, and we've all had those longer periods. And that's kind of how I felt. And it kind of is how I've felt with the international thing. Like when I've been with Barnsley, I haven't had bad luck in terms of the area of not for my own performances. I've applied it and it's all happened for me, and it's almost easy because it's happening. And it's the same when I was made the feeder team the first year in Italy. You know, I needed a bream. I'd caught a bream every day for 2 weeks, and I caught a bream, and then I caught a bream the next day. And
hang on, let's just talk about, while we're in Italy, let's not talk about you catching bream. Let's talk about you in the practice match flirting with that woman all day. The beautiful woman who was walking the banks, it was red hot in her bikini, because everyone would be really interested in this.
Yeah.
There's a beautiful woman, mid-20s,
Italian,
bikini top,
Ukrainian, I think.
beautiful tan, walking around, and obviously a girlfriend of someone's there. But
the guy who was next to me,
next to you, the boyfriend was next to you. So you're walking around. Obviously, you can't concentrate on your tip. You've got this girl walking around, and then after the match, what's happened? When you thought, here we go, I'm in here. What's happening then?
Obviously, being the colossal celebrity that I am, they rushed over. They wanted some selfies. You wanted to sign some stuff. Just gently. Can I leave my boyfriend for you?
the usual,
the general stuff.
A normal day, right? So I was thinking, this is nice bit of in the sunshine in Italy. I finally made it. I'm in the same team as Rob Wootton. What could be better? What could be better? And it was all going well. So I packed all my gear away, and we had a few more pictures, and they had a bit of a water fight with this atomizer I gave them, and it's almost
it was quite cheeky, really flirty.
Slow motion. The water was in slow mo. It was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. So I've sort of got into the van, thinking to myself, as days go, this is pretty good. I think we've secured silver behind the other team. But we days go, we're England 1 and 2, happy days. So it gets in the van, and Will Freeman pulls up alongside with Jamie Harrison right next to my driver's seat. And winds down the window, says, "Well done, lads, well done, great performance."
Have you just seen me talking to that bird?
They both give me this look. And I says, "What's up? Why are you looking at me as if I got two heads? Is that not the right result?" I'm thinking, maybe we've won it. They said, Jamie says, "You've got a little something here, mate." I says, "What do you mean I've got a little something here?" And I flipped the wing mirror around, and it looked like somebody had got a melted bar of chocolate and gone like this around my face. And what had happened is, about 4 hours into the match, I was desperate for something to eat, and I went to grab my chocolate and nut bar, and I ate it. And I had a bite from a bream, and I put it down like that, and the chocolate had smeared across my two lips. So I had a perfect chocolate ring. And I've got a ton of selfies with this beautiful woman. Chocolate face.
So you're thinking, I'm in here, and she's thinking, what an idiot.
She's thinking, how many photos can I get of this idiot with the chocolate around his face?
You do have the food on your face a lot, don't you?
I don't really know how it happens, Joe, to be fair. You know what I mean? I've had to start, giving it one of these now and then.
Talking about eating in a match, my first feeder team match, where we're in Ghent on the rowing course, obviously Tommy was the gaffer. If Tommy had seen you eating that chocolate bar, oh my word, he at the hotel, because obviously you're sitting out in the day all day, you just want something quickly to shove in your mouth, carry on fishing.
Yeah.
Obviously, this was me in my early years, just not understanding the whole game. And you do that, obviously, while Tommy's not watching. What happened with me, though, in Ghent, because obviously I'm feeling so comfortable in every situation, Tommy's come down. This is the match day on the international friendly. So, big match, load of teams, sitting there. And looking back, I'd got nowhere near getting it right. So, I was up against it anyway. And Tommy's standing on my shoulder going, "How's it going, pal? How's it going, pal?" I said, I think I'd had one or whatever, one bream. Ended up with two that day. And I'm thinking, I've got one. And he said, "It'll go though, TP, it'll go." And he goes, "Right, well, you've got to keep sticking at it." And I said, "Yeah." But as I'm talking to him, I said, "Yeah, I'm going to stick at it. I'm going to give it all I've got." And as I'm talking to him, I'm reaching down to the side tray. I'm getting these crackers out, crackers and cheese. I made some crackers and cheese up from the breakfast, started eating them. Little known to me, Tommy's just turned his back. And I didn't realise, I thought he was just off, but he turned it back because he was Steving. Absolutely Steving. And just walked off. He just ignored me for the rest of the week. I thought, why is he so mad with me? What's his problem? And as it turns out, he was absolutely Steving. And the words were, It's not an effing holiday. What do you think you're effing doing? Sitting there eating on the effing bank. You effing blah 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 effing. He absolutely went crazy. So he's a good job he didn't see you.
At least you chose something cultured, didn't you? Cheese and crackers. A bit of
No,
wine.
because it was
went
just
on,
2 crackers with some cheese in the middle. I'd done it from breakfast. I thought I'd wrap them in a kitchen roll and just shove them in my mouth. I'd seen Darren Cox do it. And I thought, well, if Darren's doing that, good idea, Darren. Obviously, Darren was doing it and having his quick
Before or after?
snack. Yeah, not while Tommy was in 50. Let alone Tommy sitting there on his shoulder trying to help me out because I was struggling. And I'm just sitting there eating crackers.
I think I'd had. It was like one of those energy bar type things, and I thought, this is my chance. I've not had a bite for an hour. Gonna chocolate bar one on. So
anyway. And it worked.
Well, it did work. Yeah, it did work. To be fair, I did catch the bream. Yeah, but also because then we actually saw her in South Africa the following year, and Will Freeman was scrolling through her phone, desperately trying to find these
pictures.
Love it.
Unfortunately, she didn't have them. She said she couldn't bring herself to keep them.
No, all deleted.
So we ask every guest this, Lee. What's the plan when we can go fishing again?
Yeah, where are you going to go?
There's
because you hate pleasure fishing. I'm just going to come out and say it. I've been barbel fishing with you in some of the nicest locations. Yeah. River Wharf springs to mind, and within 10 minutes of casting out, you're bored.
I'm bored. Yeah, I'm bored.
The specimen fish thing doesn't appeal to you.
Not even a little bit. No. So I'm going to go somewhere where I can get some bites, and I'm going to.
You're probably going to go work on casting 87 meters or something, aren't you?
Probably, yeah. I'm going to go. I'm going to go to Southfield, but I'm going to let it calm down a little bit because I think that'll be very popular. I want to go to Staunton Harold because I love it because I can cast long, cast short, deep water, shallow water.
Catch loads of fish.
An hour away. So I'm definitely going to go there. I can pick a wagger or pole up if I want to. Big natural venues for me. And then July the 1st, I'm going to go to the River Trent. There's endless miles of the Trent. I absolutely adore feeder fishing on the Trent, like proper.
Like we all do.
Run down to the Yare as well. So
that's why July the 1st?
Because
I think
it's a huge anticlimax. I think that the rivers aren't ready. I think roach aren't ready. I think fish aren't ready. I think that it's and it applies to still waters as well. But I've been on the river on June 16th, 17th, 18th, probably like 10 years running, going back about 5 or 6 years ago. And every single time I caught nothing, and every single time I had to fight for my own space on the river. So I just refused. And the best story I've ever had is when I went night fishing with Brett Clark, and he made me get to his house at midnight. And I thought, we're obviously going to get started. We trekked down to the Trent. We drove to Newark, yet the stretch was up near Collingham. And we ended up getting there. We managed to get it on a spot. Then it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. He said, right, we'll wait till first light now. Right, I'm ready to get started. I lost about 10 feeders, never caught a fish and went home. And I always think that giving them a couple of weeks, get a little bit of bait going in the water, means when I do go, I'm going to be really, really up for it. And the fish are going to be more settled and people have stopped going with the same intensity. Because they are still going, but they're not all going on 1 or 2 days. So for me, I'm going to give it till July, fishing bigger still waters and stuff like that. Hopefully. And
just on the river.
Be nice and local, keep out of the way of people, that sort of thing. That's it, really.
Well, I always find that you can catch some bream early season, but yeah, like you say, roach is a bit.
Yeah, but I know it's going to sound daft, but I'm not that bothered about going on the river to catch some bream. I think river bream are massively hit and miss. I think stillwater bream, I might be completely off here, right? But, literally that was the fish of the Broads growing up. And it was unbelievable time of day, time of tide, and the area. And rivers are too big to influence in the same way. Go to Southfield, there's bream spread out throughout. and you can
and they're moving around as well.
And you can catch them, which makes it a brilliant venue to go bream fishing. Staunton Harold, in pegs. If there's no bream, I can fish for skimmers and hybrids. I can fish for some perch, and obviously as the season goes on, the roach will start to feed. But I want to go on the river and I want to catch dace, roach. It's one of the best sort of fishings you can do.
The best,
and for me, it's almost, if I just go early, I'll just get disheartened with it because it's a big effort to go on a river. I don't mind putting the effort in, but you've got to put your platform in, you've got to get all the bait sorted, you've got to get comfy, you've got to walk, usually, unless you go by Burton Joyce or something, but you've got to find your spot. And then you could be weeded up. It's a big effort to catch nothing. Whereas once you get into July, the trend, I'm not
pleasure fishing. It's ridiculous,
history, but it's just black. I mean, me and Joe had a brilliant day on there last year. I actually went 5 or 6 more times and absolutely loved it. Like proper and a real enjoyable fishing. I'd rather catch £20 a dace than I would sit for 2 barbel. It's just not in my nature. So don't get me wrong. If I'm going to catch 15 barbel, that'd be good.
It's a bit different, isn't it?
It is like that, because that Neen where I've been walking, like you walk there in another month or two's time and it's alive with fish. You walk along there now, you see an odd chub, and that's it. The small fish aren't there yet, for whatever reason.
I wouldn't mind, like, if you go on the canal on the Aaron Calder, right? The Aaron Calder, there's a stretch of the Aaron Calder less than 3 or 4 miles away from me here. And if you go there now, you will not catch a roach. You won't catch one. And in August, September, it's
black with them.
You can't even put a rig in. It's that solid. But you can catch skimmers, and like there's loads of bits of the Aaron Calder that I'm thinking about going on once we're allowed to go out, where I can walk, get to my spot, fish a feeder at 20, 30 metres for skimmers, pommies, probably catch myself 20 to 50 fish, have a lovely day's fishing and come home. And that's what I really enjoy.
Have you found your target fish yet, Rob?
No, but like Lee, obviously, I'm hoping, I want to do a bit of specimen sort of thing, or I want to just do something that's not
a bit
necessarily sit on a box, go through that really regimented style of fishing that I just do all the time. So I'd like to do something specimen style. But Lee knows me, you know me. I think I'd get so bored. I think I would, but I don't want to. I'm determined not to get bored doing it. But
it's not for me, Rob. It's not.
I want to go somewhere and just do something a bit different. I tell you, my targets are getting lower and lower. Even the other day, it's gone from. Don't get me wrong, I'd still love to do it.
I thought you was going to fish for the Burfield Common.
Well, I want to. Yeah, no, it's not quite that high yet. But I want to go and catch obviously a nice fish out of a big lake, have my own water. But just even there's a brook that runs quite near. I could probably walk it. We have been walking it. Just a little brook. I wouldn't mind going along there. Just places where no one fishes.
That's me.
I want to go somewhere.
That's going to be me.
No one fishes. Because, okay, we've all been pretty isolated for a long time. I've still got the kids here screaming and shouting all the time. I want to go somewhere and be even more isolated just for a day or so and just get out and just relax. Because obviously, even though you're at home with the kids shouting and screaming all day, you can't sit still for a minute. You've got to keep them entertained.
No, this is a blessing. I've managed to lock myself away because I'm working.
Yeah.
Hard work, this is, mate.
That's what's keeping us going, because obviously this is
gives you your hour's peace, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Gives me an hour of peace. What kit have you done, Lee? Ready to go? Have you got any kit ready?
That's an interesting question, Rob. Said no one ever, but it is an interesting question actually, because I did nothing, absolutely nothing for 3 weeks. Did not tie a single hook, rig. I did do some elastics before we were locked down, just before we were locked down, and then we were locked down, and I couldn't bring myself to touch my gear. I knew it was going to be 6
long
weeks,
haul, yeah.
And it's going. Well, I'm almost certain tonight is going to make it another 3 weeks. Obviously, when this goes out, we'll know. But I've now really hammered it. I've hammered it for the last 3 weeks, and the main things I've done is I've tied a load of N series Preston Natural hooks, feeder fishing. So I've done like loads of N30s. I've done loads of N20s. and some N10s. And I filled 2 full feeder hook boxes, and they are absolutely full. And I'm really pleased that I've done it, because I've just been watching TV on a night for an hour when kids go to bed, doing like 20. But of course, usually what happens is I'll tie 20 hooks up, and the next day I'll go and use them. So like, you never really get on top of it. So I've been tying those every day, and I'm really happy, because I've given myself this like base of hooks that I can work on when we get back. And the other thing I've done, because I'm super ambitious, is I've done all my pole rigs for Ireland, because
do you think we'll be going?
That's possibly where we might be going as a first trip, if we're lucky.
I think I think it's looking even more doubtful. I do. I think it's looking more doubtful as the days go on.
The only problem is getting there might not be a problem, but you might have to bloody isolate when you get there.
Yeah, well, on what I've read on the news, they're saying that it won't apply to Ireland. But the only thing I'm going to say is, right, we're 3.5 months away until we go, right? And a lot can happen in that time.
Loads can happen.
Both ways. It could swing both ways, can it?
Exactly. So it could be an absolute, you won't even be going fishing again this year, or it might get to a point where they just think we've got to give them the end of the summer to have something.
Yeah. And
they just ease things enough, and we go in a controlled environment where we're not all together.
And we've got to get back to work, let's be honest about it.
Well, absolutely.
People have got to get back to work, haven't they?
They have got to. It's really tough. It's really tough. I would hate to be in their shoes trying to make that decision.
I look at Ireland, Lee. This is my problems with Ireland. You're having the same situation with feeder masters. That, okay, feeder master's a bit different because it's all sorted out. For you to just press the button and either go ahead or not go ahead. Whereas Ireland, it'd take a good month
to plan it, isn't it?
To plan it, to get bookings in, to get everything sorted. So although it's 3 months away, really it's 2 months. We've got 2 months to see how things go.
You're absolutely right. Usually we've booked our ferries by now, and we're all fully booked. We're ready to go. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but
I hope we can go. But
prep. That's what I've done. So if we are going, I'm ready.
We're sorted. Talk to me about the coaching days we do, Lee, because we've got to plug the coaching days, surely.
Well, I find this, we have got to plug the coaching days, Rob. When we get an opportunity to go back on the bank, I think coaching days will be one of the later things, sadly, because you are grouping people together.
Just so people who don't know, you two run like group coaching sessions.
Yeah, which is exactly what I was going to expand upon. So the group coaching sessions that me and Rob run are really, I think that it's a really great concept. So basically, we get you together on a day, we go through a morning session where we're really looking in detail at that specific type of fishing. So, for example, feeder fishing at Farston, commercial carp fishing at the Glebe, mixed commercial fishing at Lindholme Lakes, all these sorts of places. And we go through it in detail. They are designed to give you an opportunity to come out with, top anglers with mixed skills, but not for the one-on-one rates that you might usually pay. So effectively a cheaper way to come out, engage with other people, engage with us, and improve your fishing. And we find a lot of people, Rob, they come and do like 2 or 3 sessions because they want to see various skills. So they may spend the same money that they would spend on one session across 2 or 3 sessions.
Because obviously a one-to-one is what, 200 to 300 quid for most top anglers.
Yeah.
I do the occasional individual, you do the occasional individual, but we'd much prefer to do the group days because they're just more enjoyable.
Much more. We have a great laugh as well, don't we?
10 or a dozen blokes, up to 15 maximum we've had in the past, but I don't like any more than that because you can't focus on any one guy for much long length of time. And like you say, we have quite a few repeats because a chap might come Boston and we help him with his method feeder fishing. But that same guy is interested in general feeder fishing. So he might then book onto the next one at Staunton Harold or the next one at Southfield. And we've had quite a few like that. And that's what I like, because obviously they feel like they're getting something out of it.
Mm. They're massively popular with people that when they come, we don't get, or we haven't had any negative feedback, which is fantastic. So it's just about people recognising that the days are there. They're usually once a month. anglingacademy.co.uk. If you go on there, you can see all the dates and you can book on. If you message through that website, it comes there, or just message me and Rob direct.
How much is it?
They're £99 for a day.
So you get a goodie bag. Value. You get a goodie bag in the morning.
Preston Innovations or Dynamite MIDI.
And I would say the morning session where the group sits behind either me or you, and we talk about our rigs and feeding and fishing, that's a really intense group session, that is, for the morning. I think that's the where everyone gets the most out of it, that group session in the morning.
100%.
Obviously, everyone goes and fishes in the afternoon.
Yeah, they fish in the afternoon where me and you are sat on their shoulder, everyone's got their own level, so we try and find their level and tweak it. I'll go, Rob will go, and it's good. They are really good sessions.
And we've had people, Lee, that some of them are really good anglers, and some of them are very raw as well, haven't we? We've had a right mix of abilities.
Which is good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good. It is good. I love it when a good angler comes, right? I'm not even being funny. I think they are, because we get to hang around with each other, we don't realise the coaching that we have. Like, I'll coach you, you'll coach me.
Yeah, of course,
We don't realise we're doing it. Just take us three, for example.
You're picking things up all the while, aren't you?
I went in for I contributed to a raffle. One of the prizes is a day fishing with Wayne Bartholomew on the feeder. If I win, I'm going. I'm going. I want to see what Wayne's got to say about feeder fishing.
He won't tell you, will he? Will he tell you?
Well, he will do. I've won it. So I would genuinely go. When we go with Barnsley, I get off my box and sit behind Denty or Frankie or.
You don't get to see it, do you, very often?
No. That's coaching. That's coaching. So to people who don't have those connections, these days are massively important. And you
can watch all the videos in the world and read all the magazines that you want, until nothing beats one-on-one personal experience like that, in my opinion.
You're 100% right. Yeah, definitely.
You can sort little things out in an hour, can't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I've done it with me and Rob have done it with loads of people, loads. The way you go, whoa, what are you doing that for? You're not pushing yourself onto that next bit, and
quite often it's because they've seen it and they believe no one's doing something that they think's wrong. No one casts it out and goes, "Well, I'm not going to get a bite doing that." No one chucks it out or fishes in a way they believe's wrong. So they're doing something that they've seen, but they're not really thinking about why they're doing it. They're just doing it and going through the motions. So we try and break it down and get them to think about why they're actually fishing in a certain way.
And we don't always know the answers. Nearly every single time we go, we build it through the day and go, oh, hang on, today they needed more bait. Today they needed less bait. Today you needed to fish longer. Today you needed to come fish with worms.
Fishing isn't set in stone, is it?
And we find that on every day, and that's there for me the most interesting parts of those days.
Right, you organise Feeder Masters, Lee. Talk about the chances of
last point. Of
that going ahead. As in team and individual, talk about what your feelings are towards it.
There'll be an announcement on Monday following whatever Boris has given out today. And my feeling is it's unlikely for 2020.
What, the whole lot?
Individual event.
Okay.
Because in order to have a good event, we are going to need to maintain the prestige of the event and have enough qualifiers. And we're fast running out of time for 2020. Yeah. How we then proceed from that, we've got a few ideas, but we have to wait until we've had some guidance from the government on what we know. If they're going to stay, it's July, August before we match fishing. Feeder Masters individual will be almost impossible, and it will be carried over to 2021. That's what we'll have to do.
So what you probably do is keep the tickets. Everyone who's sort of had a ticket,
Just move it.
get the ticket for next
Yeah,
year.
there will be an element of that, but we can't until we know exactly what's going to be said. We can't promise anything. You know, even if we carry over to 2021.
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows?
Look,
Who
we
knows?
don't know whether we're match fishing next year, do we?
So we need to take it one step at a time. And up until this point, we can't thank everyone enough. We've not had any questions. Everybody's like, yeah, when you're ready, guys.
No, it's in safe hands. That's the key.
No, it's in safe hands. That's great, Joe. That's great to hear. And from the team event, that's a slightly different because there's 3 qualifiers at the end in July and August. Or 3 of the 5 rounds for the Super League. We could potentially draw teams out from the original qualifier, or if we get time, run the qualifier and have a 3-team league. That would be my ideal scenario.
A 3-round league.
A 3-round league.
Could it not go 4 rounds? Couldn't you make it 4 rounds? Add another round in?
Potentially, but that all depends on when we get to start fishing. And
plus you're going to have like club booking, shuffling their dates forward, and
exactly.
It's going to be a packed calendar, isn't it?
Got to be able to get the venues. So if we get fishing 1st of July for matches, then that's fair enough. But here's one for you, and this is, I don't want to dwell too much on this, I know we've run out of time, but is Feeder Masters Super League, or is Feeder Masters, and I'm going to use Feeder Masters as the example, is Feeder Masters the same if we all have to socially distance and we can't all stand there and clap each other at the end?
No.
Or be all together at the draw in the morning, or experience that moment of elation when you win?
No, but fishing isn't, Lee. Fishing won't be the same, will it?
But not for this year. So do we want to belittle our flagship events, or should we patiently wait till the time is right to bring them back? I watched a bit of UFC last night.
It was horrible.
And it was horrendous.
No crowd.
Because it was just behind closed doors.
Yeah, horrendous. And if they do it with football, I think they ought to be shot. Because football is about...
Unfortunately, money talks in all them sports.
Yeah, they're going to have to do it. But if they complete this season, they should hold off the next season until they can get the crowd. In my opinion, everybody's entitled to their own view. But I worry about that for the big events. You know, I want that moment when we're all there enjoying it. Ireland trip is slightly different because you are experiencing the trip. With a Feeder Masters or a fishing match, that congregation of people and then congregation around the result is generated. Who's going to bother going back for the results unless you've won? Nobody.
The thing is,
hand it over.
We're relying on hotels and restaurants and pubs being open as well. Like,
well, you wouldn't. You'd be doing everything outside.
But no. I mean, even going to Ireland, you're relying on all that being open, aren't you?
I agree. I agree. When we go to Ireland, we're going to have to eat food in our lodge every night. We won't be going out for anything to eat.
No.
And so it's, for me, and I like Feeder Masters, I like to think, has led the way in this atmosphere that is created around the event. And that's what drives people to want to get to Tamar, they wanted to be at Bow Beach for that. The moment. And that moment will not be there in 2020 as we are. And that is what is a massive consideration for me as one of the organisers at Feeder Masters. And I think that should be for a lot of other sporting events.
Yeah.
And that's only because I want to enjoy sport as it was and competition as it was. I don't need it that badly that I want to take away what is the key from sport, you know.
I totally understand. I think logistically the team one could happen logistically, because obviously it's one person from a team drawing pegs, and so, if we wanted to fish, we could social distance. We could do all that if that was the crack in a month's time.
Yeah, weighing in.
But like you say, do you want to detract from the overall event by having 3 rounds instead of 5. No crowd to clap the winners.
Are you going to stay away for Carmill?
Yeah, well, exactly. We have a hotel stay at Carmill.
You won't be able to get in a hotel.
We won't get one. So it's just
Very
things like
tricky.
that. So, but I think events just won't be the same for
a while.
The foreseeable future.
No, they won't. But that is a decision that any event might have to choose, in my opinion.
What I wouldn't want to happen.
Feeder Masters is because I can speak about Feeder Masters. It's not about the money.
That's the beauty, isn't it? You're not relying on that to make profit or your income for the year.
Exactly.
Whereas other sports are, aren't they? So
that's it. So, you know, we're not trying to do it for that. We're trying to do it to create the moment. And if it's the case that we've just got to go on a few open matches for a year, so be it.
I always feel as well, for an individual to win Feeder Masters or an individual to win one of the big events with fewer anglers or fewer teams or fewer rounds, it'd get looked back upon as, oh yeah, you won it that year, but that wasn't really the real.
Yeah, it didn't.
You were the kind of Feeder Master.
Feeder Masters light, yeah.
Yeah. So I know where you're coming from. I would love to see the team event, but I understand if it doesn't happen.
So here's one for you then with the team event, right? It runs 3 rounds and ringers have a shocking first round.
No, cancel it. Yeah, cancel it.
And all of a sudden, Dean Barlow's team are going to storm the league, right?
Rob would take that on the chin.
Rob would obviously be straight up shaking his hand.
Lee, I always shake the winner's hand.
I know you do. But my point is that your team would always look at it as if to say,
we would, yeah. No, that's why I'm coming at it from a different point of view.
We didn't really lose the league, lads, did we?
No. I know, yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. So for me, it'd have to be 4 rounds minimum, and it'd have to be. I wouldn't want it to be 3 rounds. It'd have to be 4 rounds minimum for me to warrant it being a Super League.
Yeah.
As we know.
You're going to get that moment where all the team's going to go back and clap you when you win.
Yeah, I know.
But
are we going to get that moment next year? Well,
I hope so, but it is horrendous to think.
Let's think positive. Let's go out on a positive note. Yes.
Let's go out on a positive note.
Yes.
Hang on. The positive note is fishing isn't the be-all and end-all at the minute.
Nope.
So we keep talking about let's get back on the back. It's not the be-all and end-all, but if it's safe to do so, I'd love to go fishing. That's how I'm playing it.
The positive that I'd like to finish with is I've never stepped back and had the time to look at my life in the way that I am at the moment. And I'm really looking forward to going fishing with my mates when we can go again. Mm-hmm. Because I'll be, when they say, you can travel an hour, we'll be saying, should we all go down to Staunton Arrol, sit 15, 20 metres apart and have a day's fishing, no pressure, nothing like what we're used to, because fishing at a high level is non-stop, 12 months a year, 365 days a year. So this opportunity has given a completely different chance to change. Yeah. I just hope it doesn't go on for too long, so I can't stand the kids anymore. But apart from that, all good.
On that
bombshell. Toodaloo.
Yeah. All right.
See ya.
Thanks, boys. See you later.